Welcome back to Little Lab at Home with the Museum of Life and Science. I'm Peregrine and this is Catalyst volunteer Caroline. As always, we hope that you will help lead our program with your questions and thoughts and ideas in the moderated chat box. So today we have a very colorful subject, and I do mean that in a literal way. We're talking about pigments and colors. So when we say pigment, what we mean is the thing that makes the color, right? If I hold up a yellow marker, the color of this marker is yellow, but the pigment is what makes it yellow. Even just the cap. The pigment is what makes the color. And I should say, most things are colored by pigments. There are other kinds of colors that come from the angles of light and kind of interplay of light. But we're going to be talking about pigments today and how to break down different colors of ink into different colored pigments. So Caroline, I think that maybe you can tell us about the supplies that we'll need for this experiment.
Yes, absolutely. So today we are going to be working with water. So good to have your electronics somewhere kind of safe and away from the water if possible. But today we're also going to be exploring, as Peregrine said, how pigment is affected by something like water or an alcohol if it's an alcohol-based pigment. So for your supplies today, I'm going to go ahead and switch to experiment cam. All right, so today we have some water in a cup is what you might need. I have a little beaker here, but you're very welcome to have it in any vessel that can hold water. And we also need some coffee filters, which are going to be our star of the show. They will be where we put our pigment. And then you need some black markers, water-based, and then also some colored markers are fun. They're completely optional, but colored markers will be a fun thing to work with. You also want a plate for putting your coffee filters on, something that you can just show the backdrop with. And if you happen to have a lab at home kit handy, a pipette is great. If not, you are welcome to just do a pouring technique, which we will talk about, or a dipping technique. And then last but not least, if you have scissors handy and an adult nearby, you can also work with scissors. That is optional though.
Perfect. That sounds great. I know one thing that I definitely have as well is a paper towel, a cloth to wipe some stuff up, because I'm pretty sure that I will make a mess. I don't know about you, Caroline, but at the end of this, my hands will be even more covered in marker than they already are.
Absolutely, same here. I'll switch back to face cam for the moment.
Later, let's start with our experiment. So we were saying that different kinds of things, right, their color comes from their pigment. And pigments can be made of all sorts of things, right? There's natural sources, there's chemical sources, there's all kinds of different ways of making colors. And when we look at especially like a really dark color, like black, there's a lot of pigment that goes into making this black marker black. So what we want to do is we want to make some testing strips. That's where our filter paper comes in. I don't know what kind of coffee filter you have. I have the kind that's kind of cone shaped. Caroline, you have the kind that's kind of ruffly. Either one works. What you want to do is cut out a few different strips, at least as many strips as you have markers. So I have 4 markers. I'll do at least 4 strips. You can do that with your scissors, or it's easy to rip up the different pieces. We don't need our pieces to be super large. Probably only about this big, give or take. So I'm going to cut a few of these. Here, I'll cut a few, and then to be fair to our friends who are not using scissors, I'll also rip a few.
I will join in doing the same.
Perfect.
Now, if you fold, it sometimes makes things easier to rip along a crease if you haven't done so before, friends.
That's a good expert tip there, Caroline. So the process that we are about to practice is called chromatography. And if you kind of translate that, chromatography means color writing. And we're going to do a little bit of writing to uncover some different colors, so that makes sense. We've got our strips. And the next thing that we want to do is make sure we have water in our cup. I didn't know if you were pouring water from elsewhere, but to have water in your cup. And then I want you to pick a marker, any marker. If you're starting with some black markers like me, I'm gonna pick, actually, if you guys wanna pick for me, I've got this Mr. Sketch. This is a scented marker. I've got a vis-a-vis. I've got another scented marker, and I've got a Crayola marker. So what do you think? 1, 2, 3, or 4? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Any votes? Which one should I do? We have 2 votes for 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I will do the Crayola marker. Thank you for voting, friends. So we'll start with our Crayola marker. What I want to do with my marker is I want to make a mark, right, on my piece of paper. And to do that, I'm going to go to Experiment Cam, just so you can get a slightly closer look. All right. So we don't want to color in the whole sheet. We want it to have enough space to show us all of the different inks that are inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a circle kind of around the center of my page or of my little piece. So you can see here's my black dot. Now I can already see that my black dot, when I wrote it down there, it started to kind of spread a little bit. What about yours, Caroline?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I have a marker here that's called a pigment liner. So using our word.
Oh, perfect. I can't wait to see.
Well, I also see it starting to kind of spread. I'll see if I can make it a little bigger.
Ooh, now, and that's what's so perfect about using coffee filter paper, right? The fibers of this are really good at letting water and liquids do their thing, which is to spread out. So what we're going to do is we are going to apply water to our spot to make the different pigments come out, but we have to do it in a special way, or else we'll just blot a whole bunch of water, all of the ink will escape, and we won't really get to see what we want to see. What we're going to do is, there's 2 different ways we can do it. I'll start with one, which is the dipping method. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dip my piece of paper in, but I'm going to be very careful not to dip the dot, right? I am just going to sink it in like that, and I want to make sure the water's not touching the dot. Because what water is very good at doing is it's good at climbing. When it has little fibers like are in this paper, it's really good at spreading out. It's called capillary action. These water molecules love to stack up on top of each other, and what it means is water tends to spread.
Amazing.
So you can see that mine started to spread. I'm going to see if my camera will focus on it. There we go. It started to spread, and what are we noticing? Friends, what are you seeing?
Are there any changes that people see?
What I'm seeing in mine is the black dot is no longer a black dot, it's more of a smudge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's starting to turn different colors. Oh yeah, like my friend just in the chat just said, there's kind of this dark bluish coming out of the black. And even on this side, it's a little hard to tell with my camera. Let me see if I can put it against my white background to make that any easier to see. It's almost got a little bit of pink on the bottom. Yeah, exactly, my friend. The colors are changing.
Definitely.
Make this visible. There we go. So the colors are changing. What's happening is the water is starting to separate the different pigments. And some of the pigments are heavier than others, right? So the lighter ones are ones that are kind of dissolving faster in the water and they're moving away more quickly from the center. And then the slower ones are the ones that are taking a little more time. So I think that this pink is probably our more soluble or lighter pigment because it started out first. And then our blue is slowly gaining. So I have a question for you, my friends. We tried a Crayola black marker. If I were to try my Mr. Sketch scented marker, do you think it would look the same? What do you think? What is your hypothesis? What is your guess? What do you think, Caroline?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I also wonder, because I have not gotten this one wet yet, if it will look the same as yours. I would say we might expect some changes, but I wouldn't expect them all to be the same exactly, but I don't know.
That makes sense. We have some friends in the chat that are guessing that it will be different. Make sure if you're doing this along with us that you can leave this somewhere where it's not going to get ink on something else. And I would leave it out instead of throwing it away immediately because it will continue to spread out. Go ahead, Caroline, I'd love to see.
Sounds like a wonderful idea.
So when we do our drop method, even I'll do it with you. Here's my Mr. Sketch. I'm gonna put a little dot in the middle. And this is where I am gonna use my white plate just to help me see.
Same here.
And I have a pipette, so I am gonna get a little bit of liquid. You can also use an eyedropper, or if you have a very steady pouring hand, or if an adult has a very steady pouring hand, they may be able to carefully drip on a drop or two on here, because we only want 1 or 2 drops. Ready, Caroline?
Yes.
All right, here's 1 drop. Whoa.
1 drop on here. Oh my goodness. Mine just created a massive streak.
Whoa. All right, I'm gonna do 1 more drop. 2 drops.
I'll go ahead and put a second drop as well, just to parallel.
Wow.
2 drops. Wow, friends.
Yeah, let me take a closer look at yours, Caroline.
Ooh. Now this is a water-based one as well, but it is definitely not spreading in the same way.
Wow, that's so interesting. It does. It looks like there's just a little bit, your dot is just getting a little bit wider, but it doesn't want to spread the same way. That's so interesting. I wonder if the pigments are heavier.
And yours did a full explosion of color.
I agree. That was a pretty crazy explosion. So I'm going to compare these two. Friends, what do you think? Obviously, the shapes are different, but do we have some different colors? What do you think? They're definitely different from yours, Caroline. That's so interesting.
Absolutely.
Did you say what type of marker it was?
Yes. So this one is a pigment liner, water-based, but it also claims that it is slightly water resistant despite being water-based.
Interesting. So it didn't really want, maybe it's very good at resisting that water and it didn't want to spread out so much. What I'm seeing here is that there are some colors in common, even though they were 2 totally separate types. I am seeing blue, I am seeing pink, but I'm seeing a slightly different color, so almost some brownish in the center. I'm going to test out a different marker just to see. So I'll set these aside. And I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to make sure that there's no excess ink from the other marker in here. I'm going to test out a different one.
And I will test out another one as well. Hopefully this one will be less water resistant, but you never know.
So I just put on some Vis-a-Vis marker. Looks like a Sharpie, but it's water soluble. Even says wet erase on there. So I'm going to put this down on my plate and I'm going to do the drip method again, but I'm going to try, I might even try pouring it, Caroline. I'm going to be so careful.
Ooh, amazing.
You ready?
Yes.
Drip. Ooh, that was more than 1 drop. That's
wild. Ooh.
It's definitely doing some spreading out. And what it's doing is I got it a little too wet. So I'm having problems seeing the concentration, right? It kind of washed a bunch of it out here. So I am going to keep this one going, but I'll test it in the dip method. I got too excited. I thought maybe I could pour it all in the
Sounds
dip.
good. And I'm going to test this one here with another drip just to parallel. This one is a art marker, but it is water-based and does not claim to be water resistant.
Let's see what happens.
Ooh, it is spreading quite a bit.
Whoa, whoa, look at that, Caroline. That looks great.
I'm going to bring that closer for you guys. Wow, this one's spreading out quite a bit, friends.
Those look pretty different to me, Caroline. It looks like yours is almost more purple.
I would say that there's definitely some purple along here. It might be hard to see, but all the little inner rim is kind of purple. And there's a tiny bit of blue on the very outer edges.
Oh, I'm seeing it now, Caroline. Yeah, I'm seeing it right on the edge. It's starting to spread. I think that tells us that that blue ink is pretty consistently a little bit almost like slower, right? Almost darker. I'm seeing a lot of those pink and red combinations. I want to try maybe one more black one, and then I'll try a colored one since we only have a little bit of time here with our friends.
Sounds good. I will also try a colored one. We don't know if this one's water-based though, so this is an experiment.
Ooh, that'll be interesting. All right, I'm trying my other Mr. Sketch scented marker. I'm not really sure what scent it's supposed to be. I'm just gonna do one drop on there. Ooh, two. Whoa.
Oh my goodness. That one's very greenish blue from this angle.
Yeah, definitely. It has that blue, but the blue is moving out really quickly. And friends, if any of you are doing this at home, I would love to hear about what kind of colors you're seeing. Wow, look at that. Look at there's green up here, some yellow, some blue.
Wild.
I think that looks pretty different from my other one here. And I'll show them on Facecam because the camera will have a slightly different color balance because this one in real life looks much pinker than it does on the camera.
Very cool. All right, I'm going to try the dip method for this just to see if it's water based. Now there's a chance this could be alcohol based, friends. Let's see what happens. Looks like this one might be alcohol based.
I see. I wanted to pick 3 colors. Can you guys vote on what color you want me to try out? Oh, I have a purple one too.
Ooh, we have a wonderful comment from a friend in the chat that they have a pinkish brown and blue spread, and it started with black.
Interesting. That pink and blue combo is pretty popular, it sounds like, but they're not all universal. That one of them was a little more greenish yellowish. That is so interesting. All right, friends, I'm going to test 3 more inks for our kind of color finale here. Do you guys have any guesses, or I'm sorry, do you have any votes for which ones we try? Oh, we have 1 vote for purple, so I'll do purple. Now we can do 2 more. We have a vote for red.
Good vote.
And then I'm not sure if my friend was voting for orange and brown and red, but I will do orange. So we'll try out orange and red and purple.
That sounds very cool.
How have the rest of your markers gone, Caroline?
They have just spread out very slowly, if at all. I had this gold one, and it kind of just spread from a single dot to a very wide dot. But not much color happened. It might have to do with the metallic quality of the marker.
Ooh, you tested metallic marker. I love that. There's so many different types of markers to test.
Absolutely. We've got tons of markers to test. And for friends that were curious, the water resistant one has just kind of dried itself off. Not much has happened, even though it's water-based.
That's so interesting, Caroline. Even though it is water-based, that water resistant makes sure that it does not dissolve in water. How interesting.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna do a drip on each of my different vis-a-vis markers there. Whoops, already started with one. There's another one, and there's another one. All right, I'll do one more on my purple. So it's interesting, when these are spreading, I'm seeing a lot of the same color, right?
Mhm.
Although I'm starting to see when the red spreads out, I am seeing a little bit, it looks pinkish, and not just because it's light red. It almost
Mhm.
looks like a purple pink, like magenta.
Ooh.
The other thing is that it might just take some time. I am starting to see some yellow on the edge of my orange marker. That's interesting.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it definitely makes some really beautiful patterns as it branches out. It shows how the capillary action of the water really spreads it. Oh, that looks
Mhm.
cool. All right, friends, well, I'm gonna go back to my face cam here, just so you can see a slightly different color balance, right? Maybe these look slightly different to you now. Wow, that's very bright. So you can maybe see how that
Wow.
red has a little bit of magenta, how we have much more yellow in our orange. That's kind of interesting. Um, I wanted to show you, this was one of our
A lot
scented
of yellow.
markers. You can see that it's got some blue and some yellow. And then here is, oh yeah, that's kind of a more true to life color. Here is the first one, or wait a minute, this would have been the second one that we did.
Mhm.
So that was my other Mr. Sketch. So it has pink in the center and then some blue. Then I've got one of the vis-a-vis that I did. Oh, that one looks cool.
So cool.
Has some yellow in there. And then there's my final Mr. Sketch.
Oh, wow.
So I have a lot of different colors. Can I see some of the ones that you did, Caroline?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the one that really decided to stand out. It's harder to see the purple now that it's actually on this view, but
Wow.
this purple here, and it spread very far. The backside, you might be able to see more of the blue
I do see a little bit on
on
the
the
edge
very
there.
rim. And then this dot, which happens to be that water-based, who just didn't want to spread. And our last one, which was the gold metallic, that was a very small dot and has gotten bigger, but didn't really change beyond color-wise.
Huh. So there are so many different pigments hidden inside of other colors. And the ones that can be dissolved by water are ones that we can sort of take a peek inside using our technique, which is called chromatography. This is called ink chromatography. So I've had a really good time checking out the inner pigments of different kinds of inks. Thank you all so much for being here, friends. This has been a really fun one. Next week on Lab at Home, we are going to take a trip through the cosmos. It's not going to require any materials. It's just going to be a cool kind of look at a solar system simulation through using a lot of different kinds of imaging. So we'll have you guys tell me where to go in our solar system. Thank you all again so much for being here. Caroline, thanks for being here too.
Thank you. It's been wonderful
Awesome.
being here, friends.
Yeah, we'll see you later, my friends. Have a great rest of your day.